I found this video about 4 different types of introverts, and I'm kind of curious on which one I am. I never really thought about what that meant. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know there was 4 different types of introverts, obviously. So, okay, I don't know what that is. The Big Les show. Put it in if you have a Discord. If you have access to a Discord, go in there and post it in the channel. Anyways, let's try this again. Randomly, I'm curious. What kind of introvert are you? I just found a video that I think gives us a description on 4 different types. So I kind of want to see exactly what I am. You know what I mean? I never actually thought about different types of introverts. I just thought introvert. You know what I mean? So let's check it out. This is from Socially AFK and Beyond Attraction. So let's like, comment, subscribe, and bell notifications so YouTube and Twitch Senpai can finally notice me. And by the way, if you guys don't think I'm an introvert by watching these videos, you're wrong. You're very much wrong. Once the camera goes off, I'm nowhere to be found. Okay, I don't want to deal with people most of the time unless they're like close friends. Exactly, Sarah. Exactly. All right, let's go ahead and see what's going on here. What 4 types of introvert? Which one are you?
When you hear the word introvert, what's the very first thing that actually comes to mind? For a lot of people, it's just this picture of someone who hates socializing. You know, like someone who avoids people at all costs and just hides in their room all weekend. Society really loves to paint us with this single antisocial brush. But what if I told you that the whole loner stereotype is just wrong? Or at least completely incomplete.
Incomplete.
Psychology actually tells us a really different story. There isn't just one way to be an introvert.
Okay.
Actually, there are 4 distinctly different types. And depending on which one you are, your need to just step away and go AFK from society looks completely different. Some introverts are actually incredibly social. Others are just
that sounds like me already.
Kind of trapped in their own heads. So today we're going to explore all 4. Pay close attention because by the end of this, you might actually realize you've been misunderstanding your own personality your entire life.
Really?
All right. So, type 1, the social introvert.
Okay.
This is the type that really, really confuses extroverts. Social introverts don't hate people. In fact, they deeply value connection and they actually love spending time with others. But there's a catch. They thrive in very, very small, carefully chosen groups. They want those deep, meaningful conversations with just 1 or 2 close friends. If you invite them to a quiet coffee shop, they might actually be the most talkative person in the room. But the exact moment you drop them into a massive party or like a loud networking event, their social battery dies instantly. They have 0 interest in shouting over loud music to make small talk with strangers. If you find yourself perfectly happy hanging out with your chosen few, but absolutely dreading large crowds, you're probably a social introvert.
Bro, I'm not going to lie. I did not think I would figure out which one I am immediately. I'm 100% positive that this is me. 100% positive. Which is probably why I do well on streams. Because, like, physically, you guys are obviously more than just a few people, but physically you're not actually there with me. So it's really just me by myself physically in this current space, right? So I guess that kind of like makes up for that. But like I wish I could hang out with more of my friends for sure, right? And I actually do enjoy hanging out and talking and just having jokes with like a small group of people. But I have noticed when I'm invited to parties, it is a little bit of a struggle to like talk to people because, you know, or introduce myself. I try to do it at the very beginning when I have the most energy to do that. But then for the most part, I'm just kind of like on my own, just chill and vibing. I'm not really like trying to like, you know, hit on anybody or just like, or constantly dancing to music. Or I just want to find like a quiet corner and just get a drink and just chill and listen to the music. You know what I mean? I think I'm more in my element when I do that at these large parties than trying to be like the social butterfly. And I've tried doing that, by the way, because networking is important. But like, and not just networking, like I do want to find new friends too. But I've noticed that especially lately, when I go to parties, I just kind of just chill, just enjoy the night sky, listen to music, have a drink, and that's it. I'm good.
But what if your withdrawal from the world isn't really about the crowd at all?
What is it about?
That brings us to type 2, the thinking introvert.
Thinking introvert.
If the social introvert is worried about the size of the group,
Okay.
the thinking introvert is just focused inward. This type
Focused
isn't
inward?
necessarily scared of social events. They're just incredibly distracted by their own mind.
Huh.
Have you ever been sitting with a group of people and someone suddenly asks, "Hey, are you okay? You're being really quiet." You weren't upset. You weren't feeling shy. You were just completely lost in a daydream. Or maybe
I want to say this doesn't sound like me, although I do feel like I've caught myself just thinking internally about just things and not even just listening and just, no. I don't think this is the same, because oftentimes when we're in like a small group and people are just talking and chatting and have a good time, I don't always feel the need to like interject and like be a part actively in the conversation. Just listening to them and then just enjoying the moment is enough for me. I don't think this is the same.
analyzing some complex idea, or literally designing a whole new universe in your head. Thinking introverts have this incredibly rich, imaginative inner world. They're introspective, creative. They don't withdraw out of fear. They just find their own thoughts infinitely more entertaining than the conversation happening around them.
That sounds rude.
But while the thinking introvert retreats into a safe mental space, our next type retreats for a much more painful reason. Type 3, the anxious introvert. This is where that classic stereotype usually comes from, but it's so important to understand the why behind it. Anxious introverts seek solitude not because they just prefer being alone, but because socializing causes them genuine physical stress. They often struggle with this deep lack of confidence. They are acutely...
I think for sure when I was living in New York, when I first arrived in New York, I was probably this, right? What got me out of it was going to the voice actor workshops, and then sometimes there would be events afterwards where people would go socialize, and sometimes I would walk to these places with other people. And I think that eventually got me out of it, right? I started going out more to like to Microsoft for their events, to network. And I think the networking helped me out a lot, like I said. Because before, all I wanted to do was just like go to work, do a good job, get paid, and go home, and that was it. Like, you know what I mean? And I was dealing with a lot of anxiety at that time. I was. Moving from Virginia to New York with basically nothing, I had a lot of anxiety going on. So, I think when I at that point in time, maybe like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was probably this type of introvert.
aware of how they're being perceived all the time, which leads to this constant, exhausting hypervigilance when they're around others. And the hardest part, the anxiety doesn't just magically stop when the party's over. If you're an anxious introvert, you probably know the absolute torment of lying in bed at 2 a.m., agonizing over a slightly awkward thing you said, literally 5 years ago. You overanalyze your words, convinced you messed up. Solitude isn't just a preference for this type, it's a necessary shield against the overwhelming pressure of being perceived. And finally...
But the irony is that defense generates more stress and anxiety. So it's a perpetual loop. It actually can physically do you damage. Because stress physically can mess with you if you let it fester for too long.
We have type 4, the restrained introvert.
Restrained.
You can kind of think of this type as the slow warmer. They operate at a very deliberate, measured pace. They aren't necessarily anxious, and they aren't lost in a daydream. They just need time. Like, if you're the kind of person who needs a full hour of absolute, uninterrupted silence after waking up before anyone is even allowed to speak to you, yeah, you might be a restrained introvert. They like to observe a situation completely before they jump in. They will never be the first person to volunteer or start a debate. They prefer to hang back, assess the room, and just gather their energy.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. I think I'm a combination of restrained and social. Yeah. Yeah. I've been told a lot, actually, especially when I was younger, that I'm a really good listener. And I think what that really was is that I was a restrained introvert, which means I didn't just immediately like try to solve a problem or start or lead a conversation or immediately like try to interject. You know what I mean? Which can be taken because when you have a conversation with people and they always want to interrupt and put their 2 cents in, like they have to solve the problem, it sounds like they're just hearing you but not listening to you, and that can be perceived as rude. But when you have someone that's a restrained introvert listening to you and not say anything, you can simultaneously mistaken that as someone who's being what's the word? Who's being more oh, this guy's actually listening to me, and he's very polite, and he's actually listening to what I'm saying. He's not trying to always put his 2 cents in, especially if they've are dealing with are used to dealing with people who do that in their life. And some of that might be true, but the other half is, oh, they're just a restrained introvert. They carefully gather information before they produce a response, right? Maybe it's because they don't want the situation to get awkward by an awkward response. Maybe they had situations in the past where they were a little jumpy at saying something, and they felt anxious about it. So they might have a little bit of an anxious introvert in them, and that's transitioned them to restrained introvert. I think that's probably what it is, because, like I said before, in New York, I was very anxious, but I had a lot of issues that was going on that was probably causing that, in terms of just feeling like I was failing in life, for example. But even now, I do see the restrained introvert side of me when I'm in these groups, right? Analyzing the situation where I'm at, who's talking, what they're talking about, not trying to seem like I'm completely oblivious to the subject at hand, even if I am, you know what I mean? And if I am, I'm just listening to get, to learn, you know what I mean? And a lot of people notice when you're focusing and listening to them. I think they do appreciate it when you're someone who's actually intently listening in the conversation, like I said before, and not just trying to like make yourself sound smarter by always trying to put your 2 cents in. I always felt like if you want to learn more about something, just let them talk, and you'll learn more about them just from that. Let them feel comfortable talking. You'll learn more about them anyway. In that method. And so there definitely is a restrained introvert side to me. So I think it'd be half restrained introvert and half social, right? I think that's what it is. And a lot of that social introvert side has been born out of a necessity, considering what industry I'm in right now. You have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to like network. So I think that's the main reason.
The outside world, they can seem guarded, maybe even aloof. But in reality, they're just protecting their energy and moving at their own steady rhythm.
Interesting.
Human beings are so complex.
Yeah.
You're rarely going to fit perfectly into just one box. I mean, you might be 60% social introvert, but have days where your 40% anxious introvert totally takes over. The most important thing to remember here is that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Whether you need a small group, a quiet space to think, a break from the anxiety, or just a really slow morning.
I don't want to say I thought that something was wrong with me, but sometimes I did wish that people wanted to like that people gravitated to me more, or that I was like a popular person to hang around. You know what I mean? And sometimes I did feel like that sometimes, that maybe no one wanted to reach out and hang out with me. It always felt like me reaching out to them, even though I'm an introvert. So I felt those things before. So I guess that makes sense. But I never really, but now she mentioned it, I don't know if I ever really looked at that and said, man, something's wrong with me. But I guess for, it depends on the person, right? It always depends on the person, how they perceive those things, which would determine how they deal with it. If there is something, worth dealing with, you know what I mean? Again, there's nothing wrong with being introverted.
Your need to go AFK from the world is completely valid. So
Yeah.
I'd really love to hear from you guys. Which of the 4 types actually resonated with you the most?
Yeah, let me know in the comments how you feel about this, actually, because I strongly think for me, it's probably like 40% restrained, or I don't know, maybe even 50. Actually, I think it's a 50-50 split. Restrained, introvert, and then social, right? And I've already like explained why I feel like that. Let me know if you feel like you're a combination of the two. Like, give me like a percentage out of 100 if you were to break it down into a pie graph.
Are you a specific mix?
Yeah.
Let me know your exact combination in the comments.
This was a nice,
If this video
interesting
made you feel even just a little bit more understood, consider hitting the like button and subscribing for more deep dives into the psychology of introversion.
Yeah, I never actually thought about introversion before like this. This is, it's probably a lot more to it. It's a short video, so you want to like keep the information short and easily understandable, short bites. But yeah, I think that's what I am. Yeah. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think you are. Curious, and I don't know. Maybe you resonate with some of the things I said about myself as an introvert. Take care of yourself, and as always, stay jamming.